You finally reach $100,000. Not in a lottery ticket, not because someone handed it to you. You built it slowly, one paycheck at a time, while everyone around you seemed to be living a different life. You check the number again, $100,000. For a few seconds, you wait for something to happen. Maybe the room should feel different. Maybe you should feel successful. Maybe the anxiety that followed you for years should finally disappear. It doesn't. Your coffee is still getting cold. Your rent is still due. Your car still makes that sound when you turn left. Your inbox is still full. And by tonight, you will probably check your bank account again just to make sure the number is real. This is the part nobody tells you about your first $100,000. It can change your future without changing your life today. At 30, you are earning $82,000 a year. Your coworker makes almost the same amount. He drives a new BMW. You drive a 7-year-old Honda. He talks about vacations. You talk about your investment account. From the outside, he looks richer. But there is something he cannot see. Your account has been quietly becoming an escape hatch. You didn't notice it at first. $5,000 felt like proof that you could finally breathe. $10,000 felt like an emergency fund. $25,000 felt serious. $50,000 made you realize you were no longer starting from zero. Then $75,000 arrived, and something happened. You became more afraid of losing it. You started checking the market before breakfast. You calculated how many months you could survive without a paycheck. You began noticing every unnecessary purchase. And then, one ordinary Tuesday morning, you crossed 100,000. You expected freedom. Instead, you felt responsible. Because $100,000 creates a strange psychological problem. It is large enough to change the direction of your life, but often too small to make the life you have today feel dramatically different. That gap is where people make mistakes. You see the number and think, now I can finally relax. So you upgrade the car. You move into the nicer apartment. You take the expensive vacation. You tell yourself you earned it. And maybe you did. But there is a difference between spending money because you can, and spending money because you are still trying to prove something. Your first $100,000 is not supposed to make you look rich. It is supposed to make you harder to control. Think about that. If your employer treats you badly tomorrow, what happens? If your rent increases, what happens? If your family needs help, what happens? If the economy gets ugly and your industry starts cutting jobs, what happens? Before 100,000, every problem feels like an emergency. After 100,000, some problems become decisions. That is the real transformation. Not the car, not the house, not the watch. The ability to say no. But there is another problem. Most people reach 100,000 and immediately move the finish line. They tell themselves, now I need 200, then 500, then 1 million, and suddenly the number that was supposed to represent freedom becomes another scoreboard. You thought you were building wealth. You were actually building a new way to measure whether you were enough. That is why your first 100,000 might not change your life. Because money cannot automatically remove the habits that created your anxiety. It can only give those habits more room to operate. If you were constantly comparing yourself to other people with $10,000, you can compare yourself with people who have 10 million. If you were afraid of being behind at 25,000, you can be afraid of being behind at 100,000. The number changes. The fear doesn't. And this is where your first 100,000 becomes something much more important than a milestone. It becomes a test. A test of whether you wanted wealth or simply wanted the feeling you thought wealth would give you. Because maybe what you wanted was not a luxury car. Maybe you wanted respect. Maybe you didn't want a bigger house. Maybe you wanted to stop feeling embarrassed when someone asked what you do. Maybe you didn't want $1 million portfolio. Maybe you wanted to wake up without wondering whether one unexpected bill could destroy everything you built. Those are different goals. And if you don't understand the difference, $100,000 can disappear faster than you ever imagined. Imagine yourself at 28. You have $103,000 invested. Your friends celebrate when you tell them. One says, "That's amazing." Another says, "So what are you going to buy?" You laugh. But later that night, you sit alone in your apartment and realize you don't actually want anything. You just wanted to know you were safe. That realization changes the entire meaning of the number. Because your first 100,000 is not a finish line. It is the first time your money becomes powerful enough to buy something most people spend their entire lives chasing. Time. Not unlimited time. Not retirement tomorrow. Just options. 3 months without panic. A year without accepting the first terrible job. The ability to walk away from a relationship built entirely around money. The ability to help your parents without destroying your own future. The ability to wait. And waiting is one of the most underrated forms of wealth. The person with $100,000 and no patience can still be broke. The person with $100,000 and control over their decisions has something far more valuable. They have leverage. But leverage only matters if you refuse to waste it. So when the number finally appears on your screen, don't ask what you can buy. Ask what you no longer have to tolerate, because that is when your first 100,000 finally starts changing your life. The strange thing about $100,000 is that nobody can see it. Your landlord cannot see it. Your coworkers cannot see it. The person sitting beside you at the restaurant cannot see it. Even your family may not understand what it represents. They see the same clothes, the same apartment, the same old car parked outside, and that creates a dangerous temptation. You start thinking that if nobody can see the progress, maybe you should make it visible. That is how the first 100,000 gets turned into the first expensive mistake. You buy the car because you can afford the payment. You move because the apartment finally feels too small. You upgrade your phone because the old one reminds you of the years when money was tight. None of these decisions feels reckless by itself. That is what makes lifestyle inflation so powerful. It rarely arrives as one enormous mistake. It arrives as a collection of reasonable decisions. An extra $400 here, another $600 there, a better apartment, a nicer car, more dinners, more trips, more subscriptions, more convenience. Your income rises. Your expenses rise with it. And somehow, 3 years later, you still feel exactly as financially fragile as you did before. The number in your account grew. Your freedom didn't. This is where the first 100,000 separates people. Not because some people are smarter, not because some people never spend money, but because some people understand what the money is supposed to do next. Imagine two people reaching the same milestone on the same Friday. Both have $100,000. The first person sees the money as permission. He thinks, I finally made it. He increases his lifestyle. The second person sees the money as protection. She thinks, I finally have room. She keeps living almost the same way. 5 years later, the difference is enormous. The first person has memories, purchases, payments, and a lifestyle that requires his income to continue forever. The second person has assets quietly producing more assets. From the outside, the first person may look richer. From the inside, the second person sleeps better. That is the part of wealth nobody photographs. Freedom is often boring. It looks like leaving money invested when you could spend it. It looks like driving the old car another year. It looks like saying no to something you genuinely want, because you know what saying yes would cost your future self. And eventually, something changes. You stop needing every dollar to make your life feel better today. Your money begins working for tomorrow. Then a strange thing happens. The people who once looked richer than you begin experiencing problems you don't have. A job loss becomes terrifying for them. A major repair becomes a crisis. A bad month becomes a credit card balance. Meanwhile, your life still looks ordinary, but ordinary has become a form of strength. You can wait. You can negotiate. You can walk away. You can take a breath before saying yes. That is what the first 100,000 was really buying you. Not a different life. A different relationship with life. And maybe that is why crossing the milestone feels strangely underwhelming. You were expecting fireworks. What you received was something quieter. Distance. Distance between you and desperation. Distance between you and bad decisions. Distance between you and the version of yourself that used to say yes, because there was no other choice. So if you reach 100,000 and nothing suddenly feels different, don't assume you failed. Look closer. Maybe your life hasn't changed because the money was never supposed to change your lifestyle first. It was supposed to change your options. And options compound too. The first 100,000 doesn't make you rich. It makes the next 100,000 easier. It gives your future a foundation. And if you protect that foundation long enough, one day you may look back and realize something unexpected. Your first 100,000 did change your life. It just didn't change it in the way you expected. It changed the direction.